Hello and welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you are listening to episode number 67, brought to you by Wicked Tree Gear. Today I'm talking to a good friend of mine about his first ever hunt, his transition from non-hunter to becoming a hunter, and what his hunting future holds. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. You're listening to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. And as always, man, words are tough to come by today, it seems like. Joined by Johnny Utah, my brother. What's going on?
What's up, dude? How's it going out in PA?
It's a grinder, man. You know, just living. I think, what did you say that one day? L-I-V-N, living so hard. Forgot.
L-I-V-I-N.
That's right. Did I just spell it wrong? I think I did. I think I spelled it.
You might have shortened it. L-I-V-N.
Yeah, I did. It wasn't on purpose. It was just complete brain fatigue on my part. But
that's 80s slang.
80s.
Taking letters out, you know?
Exactly. That's when you got the mullet and you're rocking some like big tongue Nikes with a fishnet tank top t-shirt and a pair of cut off jean shorts.
Have you ever heard of a drink called L8?
No, I haven't.
So it's bottled in Winchester, Kentucky, and it's kind of a mix between it's closer to like ginger ale, but I almost think it's like ginger ale and Mountain Dew almost kind of mixed together, you know?
Okay, yeah.
But it's like Kentucky sugar carbonated pond water. It's the only place I've ever seen it at is in Kentucky and maybe Cincinnati, but right. If you're ever cruising around Kentucky, I encourage everybody to stop into a gas station and get an L8.
Now, was that a key contributor to your sweet flowing locks of mullet back in the day?
It is.
It is?
It is, yeah. It's guaranteed to add 2 inches to your mullet every time you drink one.
Oh, man. That's where the Kentucky waterfall, grown by L8.
The Kentucky waterfall.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, dude. They're sweet, man. I had one. I started out it was called like a ducktail.
Yeah.
I had one of those. And then when I got into racing some motocross when I was a kid, a lot of the big name riders all had mullets, but they had a perm in their mullet.
Yeah.
And I did that. So that was the only thing hanging out of your helmet.
Right.
You know, was the curly locks. And, you know, when I was younger, my hair was nowhere near as curly as it is now.
Okay. And
of course, I never had long hair in the back until the last couple of years. And I started growing it out. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, my hair, like, it's super curly, like everything. And my mom's like, it was never that curly when you were a kid. Like, what the heck? So if I wanted to do, the mullet, I wouldn't have to do the perm now,
Right. You could just rock it au natural. See, whenever,
yeah, dude, like Vidal Sassoon.
Right. So that little mullet in the back with the curly hair, I also refer to that as the Carlos Santana. Because Carlos,
yeah, that's right. He rocked it.
He rocked it, dude. Yeah, I mean, he's got soul. So I mean, if it's
dude,
good enough,
Santana's he's a man, dude. He slays the guitar,
Oh yeah. And I want to say it's all because of the mullet. I think he has very little music capabilities. I think it's all in his mullet. I think if you cut his mullet off, I think he couldn't play guitar anymore. That's what I'm saying.
You're probably right. It's like Samson. His strength is in his hair.
That's right. Nice. Well, moving on from Vidal Sassoon, they're soon going to be a sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah. If anybody, an executive from Vidal Sassoon or any hair care products is listening, please contact Clint Campbell.
That's right. Oh man, I think we'll move on to things we might know a little bit more about, and that I think at times might even be an arguable statement. But let's talk about a little bit of prep, man. See what have you been up to out in the land of the giants? Doing any prep, getting ready for the season?
Yeah, man. As we've talked about before, like I like turkeys, but I don't love turkeys. I love deer. So as soon as turkey season was over, I'm like, all right, it's deer season. Let's get fired up. And one of my pro staff guys from the web show, Nate Holland, he lives in Wisconsin, and he's like, "Hey, I got a couple days off work. Do you need a hand with anything?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'll never turn down a hand. Let's go." So he drove down and we trimmed out one set, got one set hung, and a double lone wolf set. It's killer, man. Maybe I might be 12 feet off the ground.
Nice.
But I'm in a multi-stemmed oak, and I'm in the back upright, leader, and the rest of them are kind of curved, all funky and whatnot. But dude, it's killer. Like, the leaves can fall, it doesn't matter. I'm using all of the clump of trees, to break up silhouette and shoot in between them for my shooting lanes. We also went ahead and cut in probably a good 85 yard path through the timber to kind of sneak in backdoor access, to the set, so I don't have to cut across my food plot, to get in there and, get in and out each time. So I'm excited about it. What I wasn't excited about was I got home, and, whenever you're out hanging tree stands and your arms are kind of raked up, and it's like, well, it's just from the trees, from the bark, and, whatever else.
Yeah.
Reaching around the tree to hang the sets. And so I didn't really think nothing of it until I woke up the next morning, and in those lines were a bunch of red bumps everywhere that just itched like crazy. I'm like, this is the craziest thing, dude. I'm like, I haven't had poison ivy in like 5 years. What the heck is going on? Oh yeah, full blown taking prednisone and spreading calamine lotion all over myself.
You got the good stuff.
I don't know what it was. If it was sumac, oak, ivy, I have no clue.
Yeah.
But
that sucks.
And that's the thing. Like, usually it used to be like it was a learned trait. Like, you get done hanging sets, you don't touch anything, you come inside, jump in the shower, and just scrub. And I've even got that super awesome Technu body wash that removes all that oil or whatever. But I haven't even thought about it for like 5 years because I haven't had poison ivy. For whatever reason, I'm now allergic to it again, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, I've never been allergic to it. Fortunately, I'm going to knock on some wood, because I was actually climbing a tree last year, and my buddy was like, "Hey," he's like, "You realize you're climbing all over poison?" And I was like, "Well, I've never got it to this point." And I was like, "So I guess this will be the true test as to whether or not I actually get poison or not." And never got it. So I'm one of those lucky bastards that doesn't get poison. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, when I was a kid, man, I used to get it real bad, and then the last 5 years or so, I haven't had it. So, and it's not like I haven't been exposed to it, sometime in the last 5 years. But
right. Well, that's the thing.
I don't know. Crazy.
I thought maybe, that was the thing. It was like I wasn't ever sure if I got poisoned or not, because, as much as I grew up in the country and was outside and hunting and stuff like that, it's like, you're at some point in it, just inevitably,
Oh, yeah.
So, and that was like the test last year. Like, I don't get poisoned to the point that I don't even know when I'm in it. Like, I even still have a hard time, like, even deciphering, like, the plant. You know what I mean? Because it's just never been a thought for me to, like, oh, watch out, that's poison. It's like, oh, I just walked right through it.
Hey, this could be a good tech tip moment right here. A little nexus. So, I could describe exactly what poison oak, poison ivy, poison sumac, and all that stuff looks like.
Right.
What I will say is, leaves of 3, leave them be. If the leaves have jagged edges, there's a lot of weeds out there that have jagged edges that aren't poison ivy. But a good rule of thumb, if there is some jagged edges and there's leaves of 3, and at any part of that, the stem or the stalk, whatever you want to call it, if it has a reddish tint to it, just stay away from it.
There you go. Red, 3 leaves, jagged edges. Take a hike.
Yep. Just take a hike. Just avoid it. Like I said, it's probably a 30-40% chance that it is poison ivy, but if you stay away from it, then you can't get it. And and then obviously just when you get out of the timber, wash everything. And anybody that's had poison ivy has probably figured out their own method. But one of the things that people often forget about is like getting it on your shoelaces.
Yeah.
And then every time you go to tie your shoes, you end up touching something. And let's face it, here's the scenario. It's hot outside. You're drinking lots of water.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. This ain't no good.
Bingo. Oh, miserable, dude. And when it's hot and humid, it's the worst. But I mean, it's guaranteed it's going there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now that we've got that nice mental image working for us, we'll go ahead and shift gears to
Calamine Johnson.
Calamine Johnson. That sounds like a character on the movie The Jerk. Calamine Johnson.
Yeah, I'm telling you, anybody listening that's allergic to poison ivy, we've all been there.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
It happens. The struggles of a whitetail hunter,
Right.
We may not have to climb mountains, but we got to battle poison ivy.
Right, exactly. Oh, man. All right, so shifting gears anyway. I was at the jobby job, right? And was thinking, daydreaming as I do on my commute on the train, thinking about hunting, of course. And I'm sure you do this too. I'm sure everyone out there listening does this at some point, but you see like whenever there's like the Powerball that's, some ungodly amount of money that somebody's going to win. I sit there and daydream what I would do with that money if I won it. Right. And I think everyone kind of goes through that. So I'm curious, man. I wanted to talk a little whitetail, on this up front. But I also wanted to talk about some shit that's just not even related to hunting. That's just like some thoughts that I had that I was like, I wonder what John thinks about this. And so that's what I'm going to do with this. Is the segment called "What Does John Think About This?" Maybe it becomes a new.
What would John do?
Yeah, what would John do? So if you won the lotto, like you won the $350 million that you'll never spend before you're dead. Like, what are you doing?
Immediately.
Oh yeah.
I mean.
Other
than, contact financial advisor and fake my own death and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
First thing would be humongous tract of land. And it's funny because I've thought about this, that's why this is not, I'm just, shooting from the hip.
I heard you get out like a notebook.
Thoughts.
I heard you get out a notebook so you can read off the things you've written down.
Yep. Huge tract of land. And get a hold of some guys like Don Higgins, Kevin Boyer, guys like that, and just say, hey, you're on retainer for like 30 days, and bulldozers, doing full blown ponds and making a whitetail habitat palace. Start working on housing plans in the very most extreme corner of the property, so that way my house is not interfering with the whitetails habitat.
Yep.
And then tell the missus she can go ahead and buy her house in a subdivision, and she can live there and I'll live at my place, because we'll have to have two separate places,
Yeah, exactly.
if we had money.
Yep.
And then it kind of goes back to that thing I've always said, being famous on Instagram, and I'm quoting this. I actually stole this from somebody. Being famous on Instagram is like being rich at Monopoly.
Right.
If I could be that millionaire that had 30, 40 Boone and Crockett's on the wall and no one knew my name, I'm totally cool with it.
Yep. 100%, man.
And I think the biggest thing about all that is, we think about, and also I'd probably buy one of the Gravedigger trucks. I've always wanted one of those.
Nice.
But like, it all comes down to just, and excuse me, I've got the hiccups. I've had the hiccups for 24 hours. It's driving me nuts.
Hiccup Calamine Johnson. That's an awesome
it's ridiculous.
Name.
I think what it all comes down to is just peace of mind, stress-free, not having to worry about bills. We've all been in a situation where you're like, gosh, the bills just keep coming. And if I had more money to do this, and I don't know if it's a matter so much as I want nice things. I just don't want to have to worry about money ever again.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine the peace of mind of not having to worry about that stuff anymore?
I don't know what I would do during the day. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't have to worry about that, like just, thinking about it, realistically, it's like if I took that away from my day, if I took worry out of my day, like what the hell would I do? Because that's like what you do from like the moment you get up. It's like you worry about like what's going to happen at work, what meetings, or what do I have to do today, or what things do I need to get done by the end of the day. And then when I get home, it's like, well, what things do I need to take care of when I get home, because I spend all day at work and I have limited amount of time to take care of all my other responsibilities. It's like, it's just, I know that they say, money can't buy happiness, but I sure as hell would like to try. You know what I mean? It's like, let me have a crack at it.
The people that say money can't buy happiness are broke.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
or they've never had any.
Right. It's like the guy who says, well, winning's not everything. It's like spoken by the guy who lost. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So. Yeah. The guy that finished second all the time, and I get it. And I think a lot of those phrases and a lot of those analogies, are meant so people don't, grind and harp on the fact that, they didn't have enough money or they didn't win or whatever. It's like coping mechanisms.
Yep.
But, I get it. I understand all that. And I think there's a time and place for all that stuff. And I'm not faulting any of those people that came up with those things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, don't overthink it and just say, damn, it would be nice with some extra cash. There's nobody that could honestly say that,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's like, look, money, quote unquote, doesn't buy happiness. It's like, look, if you're a dick, you're going to be and you get a bunch of money, you're just going to be a dick with a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if nobody likes you now, you're just going to be someone with a bunch of money that nobody likes that pretends to like you.
Yeah, they're really going to not like you once they know you're loaded.
Right. And they're going to pretend to like you only when you're around. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those types of deals. For me, man, it's like I would totally do the same thing. I would buy a big tract of land. I would actually become your neighbor in Iowa. So that'd be the one place.
Oh, it'd be killer. Yeah.
I would be on my way there. I'd probably like to pick up a nice fair property in like Ohio, because I do love to hunt Ohio. And then I would look at something out west like Montana or something like that and buy a tract of land in Montana. And not necessarily that I'd have to buy a big chunk of land in Montana to hunt per se. It would just be a place. It would just be to have a place out there so I could go and spend plenty of time out there to do all the western hunting that I want to do. So that would be kind of the idea. And then I don't know what I would do after that. I'd buy some ridiculous stuff. Like maybe I'd buy like the second Gravedigger one and we could race since we're going to be neighbors. I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Well, if I get Gravedigger, you get Bigfoot.
Okay, I'll get Bigfoot. That's cool. We'll do that. Yep. Go-kart races, Bigfoot, Gravedigger races. It'll be cool. So the next thing, now that we've bought our hunting property, and this isn't related to necessarily winning the lottery. These are just things I've been thinking about. Like I also daydream about like the dream hunts, and this has been something that I've been kind of thinking about more often recently, and more in a realistic sense. Because as I had mentioned previously, it's like I'm not doing the Montana hunt this year. It just isn't in the cards for me this year. Probably won't be doing it next year either, because I should be able to draw my Iowa tag next year. So I'll be spending more time out in your neck of the woods next fall and probably not doing a Western, big game hunt. So I started kind of thinking about, as I'm getting the itch for hunting season, like what type of dream hunts would I want to do, quote unquote dream hunts, they may be attainable, unattainable, whatever the case might be. And for me, it was less about species and more about environment. Like I have this hankering right now to do some hunts that are going to like test me, like be grueling physically, mentally, just be tough hunts. With maybe like a sidebar of danger. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's just been this thing that I've been kind of thirsting for of, like I want to do something. I want to do a hunt that's extreme, and I want to see like how I stack up in it. So that's kind of my dream hunt. And I don't know if that's doing like, mountain goats. I don't know if that's doing like, a grizzly archery hunt on like Kodiak Island or, what that hunt is necessarily, but that's the thing that I'm kind of like looking for next, I think. And who knows if I ever get to do it, maybe one day, but that's kind of what I've been thinking about. But, what about you? What's that for you?
So, I think as far as whitetails goes, every season I'm chasing the perfect hunt. And I'll never obtain the perfect hunt. I know that. Mm-hmm. And there'll always be some element that I'll want differently, or I'll want to have happen differently. So, you know, that's, it's outside of whitetails. Yeah, I could kind of, you know, copy that from you. I'd like to do the wall tent out somewhere for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Extreme conditions, very challenging, whether it be heat or cold, mm-hmm. Something, you know, I would like to test myself in those elements. The bigger picture, the bigger side of that is I want to be in a situation where I can unplug for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
No cell phone, no emails. And to also not have the mental drag of what's going on back at the office.
Yeah.
Man, I've been out here for 2 weeks. I need to get back to work. Because if I don't work, I don't have money. If I don't have money, I can't pay bills. Like, I want to immerse myself, you know, for 2 weeks and be in a position where I don't have to think about anything, where it's just me and the wilderness. It's me versus the animal. It's me versus my skill. And have it all come together. So I don't know that there's an animal per se, and maybe even the elements aren't even as important as I want to be able to do hunting like that. But yeah, I mean, locally, it's just, it's chasing the ultimate, having the ultimate hunt, the perfect hunt. And like I said, it's kind of like people say the game of golf. The reason why they keep going back is it's a sport you can never master.
Right.
And that's the way I see chasing whitetails. You can never master it, and that's what keeps me wanting to go every year to try. Yeah. You know,
that's a good example, man. I like that, because you're right. It's you're never gonna do it the 100% the way you want to any given time. They tend to they beat us more than we beat them. That's for sure.
Like last year when I was in Montana. Oh, excuse me. When I was in Montana last year, it was killing me because, you know, it was in the back of my mind every second of every day. I'm like, gosh, I wonder how many emails have come in. Gosh, I'm going to have so much work to get caught up on when I get back, you know, because it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
There's, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, there's nobody within my company that does what I do. So it's not like, you know, and this isn't bashing anybody's job, you know, please don't let anybody take it that way. But if somebody takes a vacation and they, you know, somebody picks up their slack, or somebody, you know, carries their shift or whatever, you know, where I work, I'm the only person that does it. So if I'm not doing it, it's not getting done, but it's not going away either. I still have to make up those hours when I come back. I still have to respond to those emails or whatever, or schedule those posts. So the whole time I was there, every second, that was in the back of my mind. And that's one of the things that I say, I had a phenomenal hunt, but I didn't have the perfect hunt.
Right. Yeah.
Because point. I had that nagging stuff in the background, and I'm a workaholic by nature. It's very hard for me to unplug. And I think the only way for me to unplug is if I was 110%, you know, in a different place.
Yeah.
Financially completely set, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that style of hunt might be, since we're both kind of looking for similar things, maybe we should, maybe that should be on our collective bucket list, and we try to make one of those hunts happen, because that'd be rad. I'd be down with the wall tent and survival kind of scenario. So, going to make a hard transition with no segue into the next question. Which is completely unrelated to hunting. I eat a lot.
Okay, I'm scared.
I don't know. I eat a lot of almond butter. I used to eat a lot of peanut butter. This is going completely off the rails.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, man, like, because there's chunky peanut butter people and there's smooth peanut butter people. Which one are you? We might determine how much longer we can be friends based on your response.
I'm a smooth peanut butter guy.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm not going to say that chunky peanut butter isn't good.
Yeah.
But nah, man, I'm a smooth peanut butter guy. There's things that are supposed to have chunks in it, I guess, and
I have a hard time finding
peanut
those
butter's
things. Like I have a thing with chunks. Like I can't do certain foods with certain textures. Like marinara,
Yeah.
can't have chunks of tomato in it. Like I just can't do it, man.
No, I don't like chunks of tomato in chili, marinara, and none of that stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do cottage cheese.
Oh, now cottage cheese, I can eat like a container of that shit. That's good stuff.
Yeah, see, it's just something about the chunkiness, texture of it. I can't get the past. I'm thinking, it's just spoiled milk or something, you know?
Right. Yeah, it kind of is. Just
Palmetto or that palmetto cheese.
Yeah.
I can't do that either.
Yeah, like anything that ends in cheese, I'm a fan of. Pretty much.
Now, yeah, and normally I do. I do love some cheeses, man. When I go to Wisconsin, oh my gosh, squeaky cheese, cheese curds, fried cheese curds. I don't care. Love them all.
There's this cheese called Vampire Slayer. You have to try it. I don't know. I think it's made.
Vampire Slayer.
Yeah,
Is it hot?
No, it's not hot at all. It has like some garlic in it.
Okay.
Hence the name Vampire
So that's
Slayer.
what they're slaying the vampires with, is the garlic?
I think so. But it's amazing. I think it's made by some creamery here in Pennsylvania. My wife and I found it when we were like dicking around like some small town in the Poconos, and we happened upon this creamery that made like ice cream and cheese. They had their own caves to age their cheese in and stuff like that. And it was crazy. I learned a bunch about cheese that day. But
so Yingling and Vampire Slayer,
Yingling,
two greatest things to come out of PA.
Pretty much. I mean, you can pretty much chalk it up to beer and cheese.
Hey, what's going on with the Sixers coach? Did he have all these extra Twitter accounts or what?
Apparently he did. It was the GM, I guess. He had multiple Twitter
the GM?
accounts.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And I'm not 100% sure exactly what it was. I mean, I heard it on ESPN. I guess I was listening to Mike and Wingo in the morning or whatever that show is. And they were talking
I haven't gotten all the story myself either.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he said in order to get canned. You know, I don't know if he was making statements about players or what the case was. You know, it didn't seem like
had bogus accounts just heckling people and, you know, saying stupid stuff or.
Yeah, I think it was more of that. I didn't hear anything necessarily, you know, maybe he did something that was horrendous and I just didn't hear it. But like from what I heard, like it sounded like it was just kind of like, you're kind of an idiot. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think he kind of got fired for being an idiot and making the Sixers look bad because they hired an idiot. I think that's really what it came down to. You know, so.
Jeez.
But so another hard segue here without segue, because we do have a cool show that I want to get to. I wanted to just give you an opportunity because I know that you made an announcement on, I believe it was Arrow Wild, and then your, of course, social media platforms, and then I put out an announcement this past week about it. But Wicked is doing a pretty slamming giveaway that I think we should probably just kind of talk about here and make sure people are aware of.
Yeah. So we've got the Wicked Summer Sweepstakes going on right now on the Wicked Instagram. There is a bit.ly link in the bio. Like I said, the bit.ly link is to the landing page. But it's wickedtreegear.com/sweepstakes-2018/ those are forward slashes, by the way. You can enter this contest. I'll give the ways you can enter, and then I'll give the prizes. The ways that you can enter is you can enter one time with an email address and be added to our newsletter. That gets you one entry. The other way that you can enter, from now until July 13th, any and every purchase that you make from Wicked Tree Gear's website, Tecumseh Seeds website, or Glacier Cooler's website is entered. Here's a hint. You could buy something every day and get an entry every day. Every time you order, you get an entry. So that's how you enter. What you're entering to win is the grand prize. Winner take all. You've got a Hunter Safety Systems harness. You've got 2 acres of Tecumseh seed, a Lone Wolf tree stand, a ice tub cooler from Glacier Cooler. You get a handsaw and a Wicked Tough pole saw from Wicked, and the top prize is a free muzzleloader hunt, whitetail muzzleloader hunt at Whitetail Heaven Outfitters. Free range, no fences. The winner gets to choose between Kentucky, Indiana, or Ohio. The winner has to buy their own hunting license, obviously. But Wicked is also paying all your meals at the lodge, whatever state you go to. The winner is responsible for their housing. There's tons of local hotels, nearby, but it's a 4-night, 3-day hunt. Pretty friggin' spectacular. We're talking over 45,000 free range acres of land that they manage. So all said in total, we're talking over $5,500 value from the gear and the hunt. Should be pretty awesome. Somebody's gonna be smiling ear to ear.
For sure, man. That's killer. And those dudes are super cool, man. I know that you introduced me to those cats out in, when we were at ATA. Super nice guys.
Yep.
Run a first rate outfit. You couldn't find a bunch of better hunters to spend some time with and do a muzzleloader hunt. So everyone, be sure to enter. As John had mentioned, every time you make a purchase, you get to ring the bell to have your name thrown in the hat to possibly win that hunt. And with that, let's go ahead and take a quick minute to talk about our partners that continue to help us make this podcast possible. Wicked Tree Gear, the longest, lastest, fastest cutting, toughest tree trimming equipment you have ever used. Simply put, the toughest saws on earth. How tough are they? And tough enough to come with a lifetime warranty. And right now, when you visit wickedtreegear.com, use the promo code TRUTH at checkout and get a 20% discount on your Wicked purchase, and that could also go toward possibly winning a killer hunt. We're also brought to you by Exodus Outdoor Gear. The new Exodus Trek is a byproduct of all consumer voices who have been excited about the Exodus trail camera it has to offer, but just can't fit a $200 camera in their budget, and that is okay. A budget-friendly trail camera backed by the industry's leading warranty is now here. The Trek comes in at $145. It has the same proprietary shell design as the Lift series cameras, same 5-year warranty, unmatched customer service, 0.7-second trigger speed, photo, video, time-lapse, and hybrid modes, all with a simple single-line backlit LED display. You also get approximately 20,000 images on a set of lithium batteries. And if you'd like to learn more about Exodus trail cameras, check them out at exodusoutdoorgear.com. If you dig what you see, save yourself $20 and use the promo code TRUTH at checkout. Also, be sure to get involved in their Velvet Fest giveaway, which Wicked Tree Gear is part of as well. Make sure you're tagging any of your social images with hashtag VelvetFest to get entered. We're also brought to you by Tecumani Seed. Everything is bigger and better in Texas, no matter if you're in the South, Midwest, or Northeast. Tecumani has your food plot seed needs covered. Visit Tecumani.com. Check out their product selector tool to help pick the right seed for your food plots. Use the promo code TRUTH at checkout and save 20%. We're also brought to you by Glacier Coolers, simply the world's finest. Whether you're hunting, camping, or fishing, you'll enjoy smarter design, stronger construction, and superior insulation of Glacier Coolers. Visit them at glaciercoolers.com. Promo code TRUTH. Save yourself 20%. We got a cool show today. I have my buddy Trevor Navarra on. You guys probably heard him the last time he was on when we were talking about taking him on his first turkey hunt. This is part number 2 of that podcast series, talking to him now after he's become a hunter, and talking to him just about his experience, what he thought of it, and what he thinks the future of hunting might hold for him. Without further ado, let's get Trevor. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. Today I am joined, so let me start off by saying a few weeks ago, I think it was podcast 59, I had a friend on who I was taking out for his first hunt. First turkey hunt, first hunt ever. And we met with him to kind of talk about his feelings leading up to his first outdoor outing, if you will. And today is part 2 of that. I am joined by my good buddy, Steuben Reynolds. Stube, how are you?
That's me.
No, I'm joined again by Trevor Navarra, my buddy that I used to work with. Talking a little turkey hunting, kind of reliving the day we went out and the day you became a hunter. But before we jump into all the fine details of that day, how you been, man? What's new?
What is new? Not a heck of a lot. Just
having a few Dale's Pale Ales.
Currently, yes.
Presently,
enjoying myself. Might be a little more talkative than the first podcast.
A little social lubrication will do that to you.
Loose.
A little loose.
Feel good.
Looking very lumberjack like today with your flannel on. Very Paul Bunyan of you.
That's my go-to. You know, they're comfortable.
Yeah, they are comfortable. Nice. So let's just jump right in, man. So, I know, for those out there listening, they listened to the first podcast, and we kind of ran the gamut, with kind of getting you ready, and, went from everything from, you taking your license test and, getting your first hunting license, and, we went shooting with, you, Wilson, and I, and then finally the day came to where we were hitting the timber. We went out and got you your camo, so you're all ready. I donated some camo to you, which my wife was super excited to get out of the closet because my cup runneth over with camo and hunting gear. So
yeah, my wife was like, "What the hell is all this?"
Right. Nice. Should have said it's a new Steuben, babe. New Steuben. But so I guess let's just start off, man. I'd love, because we talked a little bit on the truck ride home after that. Yeah. But not a ton, of course, because the day, up early, long morning. We both had kind of things to do in that afternoon. I think I actually had to come home and put insulation in my attic, so it wasn't a lot, like we had a long time to really kind of catch up and kind of talk about the hunt and stuff like that. So this is really the first time we're really going to kind of discuss it. So I guess let's just start off with, give me your just overall kind of perspective on the experience in the day.
It was a hell of an experience. I mean, I'm not sure the last time I woke up that early.
So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, just from the start, it was an eerie ass morning.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, there was a crazy fog. I mean, the temperature was nice.
Yeah.
But I remember driving, we were in some serious back roads. You were
speeding.
Like it was definitely like, so the anticipation of the hunt with
me scaring the shit out of you.
Yeah, I was like, what? This is nuts. So just, straight off the bat, it was like, what's going on? You couldn't see a damn thing.
Yeah.
Getting to the house that we were going to hike out to, Wilson wasn't there yet. So both of us were like, I think this is where we are.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't see, we knew
couldn't see a damn thing.
Yeah. I mean, we knew what the numbers were supposed to be on the mailbox, but it would have helped if we could see mailboxes.
Yeah.
That was kind of how it was. A cool, eerie ass morning. Like that was probably one of the cooler, when I say cooler, not in terms of temperature, but cooler in terms of visual. It was one of the most eerie and really cool kind of visual mornings that I've had, especially turkey hunting. You know what I mean? Because that was just, the fog just added this extra element of nuance that it was really kind of picturesque, right? Because that's some things that when you think about hunting, like I don't know if you've ever read any, but if you read any like outdoor writers and stuff like that, they do a really good job of painting, using the theater of the mind and kind of painting and putting you in the scenario that they're in. They can tell you about what they're smelling, the mist that they're feeling, and and really kind of put you in that place. And that was one of those mornings where it's like you could feel the fog on your face.
Did you smell my fear?
I could smell your fear. Yeah, I could smell your fear as we were walking through the woods. But I'm sorry to interrupt you. So go ahead. So we kind of get there. The fog's kind of laying in thick.
Yeah. So we get dressed. We get cameras ready, gun ready. We're all ready. And the first thing that Wilson says to me is like, "All right, man. So you need to be stealth out there." And we didn't really talk about like what to do when we were there. He's like, "First of all, you're going to be sitting down. Look with your eyes first, then turn your head."
Right.
So like right off the bat, I'm like, oh my God, I need to be a statue for like the next like 7 hours.
Right. It's hard, but I mean, he's right to a degree. And it really comes down to, and we had talked, we had kind of explained this to him. You and I had talked about it and how well turkeys see, right? It's they don't call them nervous turkeys for nothing. It's like they can see shit from a mile away. Figuratively and maybe literally, depending on how much is between you and them. So, and that's just kind of a rule of hunting. Like I follow that even whitetail hunting. It's like I've blown up my spot and had missed opportunities at nice bucks because I turned with my head out of excitement to see what that sound was behind me, versus just kind of using my eyes to like take a peek real quick before I make any type of move.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
But a new hunter, it's like you think I can't move at all.
Yeah, and there's like I'm an antsy person as is, like I can't sit still.
Right. You're as bad as my daughter. But no, I'm just kidding. So So we're getting ready to walk in the timber. We get all of our stuff ready. We get all dressed, ready to roll in. Wilson makes you nervous about how still you're gonna have to sit.
It's like, what the hell?
And we start to walk in. So tell me about like the walk in, because that was dark and we didn't use any light to get in.
No light, pitch black, ton of fog, no idea where you're going.
Yeah.
And you're just walking and walking and walking, and everything looks the same.
Right.
Because you've never been there.
Right.
You know? I mean, only from the walk back we were like, oh.
Right.
Now I have some bearing where we've been for the past 7 hours.
Right.
You know, I mean, so you know, obviously like the distance from where the cars were to the actual hunting spot seemed like an eternity.
Right.
You know, because again, I'm nervous as hell.
Right. Right.
Because I've never been decked out in full camo and while holding a gun.
Right. So there's that element too. Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: have you ever ventured into the timber, you know, with like in kind of pitch black with no light whatsoever? Have you ever done that?
I have, but
Okay.
I hated it.
You hated it
Because, okay, so for example, I think we talked about this before. I used to go up to the Adirondacks when I was a kid.
Right.
And in the Adirondacks, and especially where we were, there was a ton of bear.
Okay.
And there's always bears in the woods. And
Right.
and I've been way too close to bear
Right.
just as a child with
Right.
my bike. you
Right.
know? So I got a good getaway. But like, so I was always like very fearful of the woods
Right.
at night.
Right.
Because straight up because of that.
Because of
bear.
Because of bears. Okay, you do know that they are more scared of you than you are of them, right?
Now when they're like going after like when they this is notorious. Like we camped by a restaurant, and every Friday night you knew because they were serving a fish fry
Oh,
that the
man.
dumpsters were going to be rocking.
Right. And it wasn't homeless people.
No, it's straight up bear.
Right, yeah. It wasn't homeless whoopee, if you will. It was bears. All right, so we get in there, right? The walk in, pitch black. You know, that's just something. It's one of those things, man, and I'll be honest with you, you know, anytime you walk into a new place, you know, there's always just a little trepidation because you don't know where you're going 100%. Like I remember whenever I was, you know, hunting, you know, in Ohio the first time on this piece of public ground that I was hunting on, I'd been there only in the daylight once, and it was in the summer, so everything looks completely different because there's all the green on the trees, right? And so when you walk in November, it's a drastically different place, and so it looked like a completely different world when you walk in, and all the landmarks that I thought I knew were now different. And I walked in the dark, got turned around, and it's, you know, to be honest with you, there's been moments and there's been times where I've walked into some new places, even though I've hunted, you know, since I was a kid and stuff like that, that you get a little unnerved, you know what I mean? Because more than anything, I think your brain just wants to sort things out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
More than anything, you know what I mean? It's like you just want to have some type of reference, you know what I mean? And then you're fine, you know? It's not even so much that you're lost, because that's not really the case. It's more of just like my brain can't tell direction right now because it's so, you know, because it's so dark or it's so foggy or it's so, you know, whatever the case is, that my brain just needs to see something. It's like I was listening to a guy talk about he does some of these stunts, I'll call them stunts, but he does these things where he puts himself in real life like danger situations to try to get out of, right? And one of them was, and he does it sometimes he does it in a suit, and this one he specifically did in a suit, an avalanche suit, to live through an avalanche and try to understand what your brain goes through.
Screw loose, man.
Right, yeah, tell me about it. But what your brain goes through as you're kind of like trapped and caught in like a, you know, a dire situation. And he was just saying with the avalanche, it's like everything's dark. Your brain doesn't know what is up or what is down or what's left, what's right. And it's really just, you're freaking out more than anything because you have no sense of reality to grab a hold of.
You should have watched that episode of MacGyver.
Right, yeah. But what he did was he ended up seeing a drop of water as his body heat was melting snow, and saw which way the water dropped. And then that told him, you know, based on gravity, which way up was. So now, and then he said once that moment happened, that he was able to kind of like contextualize direction, he all of a sudden calmed down and was like, and was okay, like was calm. And, you know, they rescued him, they got him out of there. He ended up being in there for like 30 some minutes or something like that before they pulled him out. But once his brain had like something to grab a hold of, like everything else kind of started falling in order.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that, you had a similar experience just walking into the woods, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's kind of part of it, and part of it too is just like I still get like this anxiety and this excitement when I walk in, you know what I mean? And
there was crazy excitement. My heart was pounding.
Yeah. So tell me about that a little bit. So like when you're walking in, like aside from just like having I guess sensor, deprivation or whatever the case might be, right? What was your kind of like feelings like as you were walking in, like your emotions aside from like the anxiety and a little bit of like what the hell's going on?
Excitement, fear. I mean, anxiety through the roof just because I have no idea what's going on. You know? And eventually we settled on the spot, or the first spot, set up the decoys. Wilson's like, you sit here.
Right.
Because he'd already actually kind of made a bit of a blind for us.
Yep.
So before you know it, we're just like back to back on a tree behind a little blind, staring at some decoys.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit, this is it.
What's going to happen?
Yeah. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
I see the decoys.
Yeah.
And it's still pitch black.
Right.
It's dark as hell.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we did hear a bird early in the morning off to the, the left of us. I'm not even sure in terms of direction if it was the north or the south. And that bird was just a little too far to work, And then I'm not sure if you heard it. I know we talked about it afterwards a little bit. But there was a hen that was messing around down below us that acted like she might want to come in. And for a moment there was, I know Wilson had thought, maybe if there's a hen, there might be a gobbler nearby or whatever. Maybe he's just not talking. But to no avail, she never showed herself either. Of course there wasn't a gobbler with her either. But then we did have a little bit of wildlife activity, which was cool. I saw him. I wasn't sure that you had seen him at first, but that little fox kind of like hung out with us for a little while. I only had seen it. I saw him one time, but you said he came by a couple times.
Yeah, I saw him the second time. He just kind of showed his head, just kind of what the hell. He saw us immediately.
Yeah.
He saw us and then split.
Yeah.
But then he came back again, did the exact same thing. Like, oh, you guys are still here.
Right.
I'm out.
Right.
And that was cool.
Yeah. So have you ever been like, I guess, in the outdoors like that and just kind of watched, the wildlife do their wildlife things? Or was that the first time you've seen something kind of like really creep in, like not knowing that you were there at first, right? Because there's a difference between like when we see animals like in suburb kind of settings where they get a little desensitized to like human activity and stuff like that, and they'll kind of come out in close to you or whatever. But this guy was, not that. Like he thought he was going to get an easy meal.
Totally.
He heard the calling and thought like, hey, there's some turkeys up here I might be able to pounce on.
I mean, I've backpacked for weeks. I've, done plenty of hikes. So I've been in the woods, but I always feel like I'm moving.
Right.
I've never sat in one place and just like
observed
and consumed like everything around me.
Right.
And it was loud as hell.
Right.
Like birds are like, eventually they become used to you. So they're just squawking away. Everything is just like rough, rustling, and everything is going around about you. And it was a trip. I thought it was going to be like, just like silence.
Right.
But like there was so much commotion.
That was the thing that kind of struck me because when I had said something to you as we were walking out, and you said exactly what you just stated, which was, I couldn't believe how loud the woods were.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to me because, it is, but, when you're in it so often, I guess it's like you start to forget about it, right? Like because you're in it, just becomes part of what you do, and you're used to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I didn't even think of that at all until you'd mentioned, you were like, man, that is super loud in there. And I was like, you know what, you're right. Because when you listen back to anything that you film in the woods, and you listen back to it, the first thing you notice is like, man, there's all kinds of like birds and noise and whatever the case is. But when you're in it, it's like I guess you kind of take it for granted a little bit, right?
Yeah, totally. And because you're just sitting, you really have nothing to do but like observe and just like listen. Whereas if you're hiking, it's like one foot in front of the other, don't trip, don't fall, don't.
Right. So I'm curious. I know we talked a little bit afterwards. We traded a couple of text messages and stuff like that the past couple of weeks, and I know that you had told people that you were going on your first hunt, and family members, whatever the case might be. So what was, now that you've gone on, have you talked to anyone since you've gone and said, yeah, you've gone and you've done a hunt and kind of talked about the experience with folks afterwards? And like, what was their reaction to you kind of, taking that step and, becoming a hunter for the first time?
They were interested, they were totally like, they were asking a ton of questions.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
Like what?
I mean, specifics, like what what'd you do? Like,
right.
What does it take? What do you do? How do you turkey hunt?
Right.
I didn't know. Now I do.
Right. I didn't know. Now I do. Right. That's interesting. So what was the most interesting question that you got that people wanted to know about the experience?
Oh boy.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Was it any of my former, your current coworkers? Probably. Yeah.
It was, I don't know if it was like, if it was one of their questions, but it was just like, I just started just kind of rambling.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like just funny things that I picked up on.
Right.
And, just like interactions with us.
Right.
All right. So we probably got to the spot like 5:30 maybe.
Yeah. Something. It was probably pretty close to 5. It was early. Yeah.
Okay. So 5. So probably by like 7, like it's still, it was actually still kind of dark. Your ass is numb.
Oh man, yeah. Those pads weren't doing us any favors. And then Wilson and Alden are sitting over there in their sweet smooth seats that they got the fold out chair, like the fold out old man turkey chair. Yeah, I was a little jealous.
Yeah. So we're like, we're just like, we're sitting there, our asses are numb. They're not wet, which is nice.
Yeah, that was a positive.
And I'm like still like sitting there like a ninja. It's like not moving. And like that's uncomfortable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like, and I'm thinking like I can't stretch my legs. Yeah. I can't do anything. I just need to sit here like a effing statue.
Right. And then I did take an Instagram story of you taking a look.
Well, yeah. So the problem was like, all right, so like maybe we're 2 hours in and I'm uncomfortable as hell. And I think I was like, Clint, what time is it? And you're like, it's 8:00. And I'm like, shit, we have 4 more hours.
and I got to take a leak.
I was like, I got to piss. And you're like, just go, man. And I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't cover that in advance. We didn't cover that in advance.
Because probably from 7 to 8, all I could think about is how much I had to piss. So there was at least an hour of just misery. I'm just like, I can't make this. I'm not thinking about the hunt at all. I'm just thinking about my bladder, how big it's getting.
Right. Man, it's gonna be really embarrassing when I piss my pants in front of these guys. Yeah, that's funny. That's awesome. Yeah, we didn't cover that one because there's like with deer hunting. There's a group of guys. There's like 2 rules or schools of thought, if you will, when it comes to urination while hunting. Especially deer hunting. Turkey hunting, not so much, right?
Tell.
So there are guys that follow, that are in the camp of won't piss out of their tree stand, and they'll take a bottle, and they'll piss in the bottle and keep it in their tree stand with them. And I used to follow that rule. That used to be me. They've done studies where they've had, used human urine to see if there was any deer were, staying away from an area if a human urinated in a spot, and that just is bogus. It's not the case. But some guys still don't believe that, right? They still think that human urine will deter a deer from passing through. They will wind you in that regard. But studies prove that to be false. The other camp of guys is that you just let it fly from the tree stand, right? So that's now what I do. But there's a definite line, for anyone out there who's listening that's from Pennsylvania, there's definitely a yins and yuns line in PA where if you're from out around Pittsburgh, right, you say yins. What are yins doing, right? Yeah. If you're from like this side of Lancaster, it's what are you doing?
Yes,
so it's the yins and yous line, right? it's kind of the same thing with the tree stand. It's like the pissers and non-pissers out of the tree stand. Now, if you got a deuce, that's a whole other, like some dudes will just let it rip from the tree stand. You know what I mean? Like anchors away, 25-foot drop, you know. Some guys will get out of the tree stand. I'm a get out of the tree stand kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
sounds about right.
That's kind of my MO. But, you know, as I'm thinking about it, getting a little older, getting a little less, a little concerned with my, you know, what others may think of my actions. You know, given the opportunity now, I might drop deuce out of a tree stand. I'd maybe do that. I would have to think long and hard about it. It depends on how badly I have to go, I think. You know, because you don't want to go while you're going down the tree, because that wouldn't be good and ruin your day.
Just pack some toilet paper.
Oh man, I have it in my truck right now. I carry it with me like at all times. There's some in the console.
Must have been a Boy Scout.
Not even. It's just when I went to Montana this year, I shit in the woods for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
And so it just became like a normal thing for me, to where it's like my buddy Chad I was hunting with in Ohio. It was like every day we'd come back to camp. It's like I would deuce in the woods like twice a day. Even if I had somewhere to go, I'd just go in the woods because I was just kind of used to doing it. It was like it was like 3 weeks of my life. I went to the bathroom in the woods. You know what I mean? So when I came home after all those trips, I was like, this is what it feels like when people got plumbing for the first time. I was like, this is awesome.
Hallelujah.
You know? Yeah, exactly. I was like, man, this is great. I have something to sit on. It's not tree bark. My toilet paper's not kind of wet. If I run out, I don't have to use a leaf. I can just get more toilet paper. You know, it's
wow.
Yeah, we've gone off. We've gone off the rails here a little bit. We've got like people tuning out left and right. These guys talking about pooping out of tree stands. But so let's get back to the topic at hand here, because there was a couple things I wanted to ask you, you know, about the hunt. So we covered, you know, a little bit of the conversation that you had with people. So I mean, so overall their reaction was like, that's cool, and they were supportive of it for the most part. Did you have anyone who had like a negative reaction to the idea that you were gonna hunt or did hunt?
No, definitely not.
That's
no,
cool.
Everyone was just definitely like, wow, that, you know, did you have fun? Absolutely.
Nice.
It was just, there was a lot of just that, you know.
Nice. That's cool. So what was your, you know, if you had to boil it down to just like a moment, and unfortunately we didn't see a bird, right? And we ended up moving 2 times, right, to try to you know, locate some birds, and made a couple moves and stuff like that. But if you had to pick like one thing that stuck out to you as like your, you know, favorite moment of the day, you know, or the whole experience, it wouldn't even have to be that. It could be when we went to shoot, you know, shooting guns or whatever the case is. But like, if you had to pick like one moment where you were like, this is like the thing that I'll probably take away as like my favorite part of this experience, what would that one thing be? Before we continue our conversation, let's talk about Wicked Tree Gear saws. Hardcore deer hunters need hardcore tools. Do yourself a favor and check out Wicked Tree Gear, the toughest hand saws and pull saws on earth. You buy it once, you buy it for life, backed by a lifetime guarantee. Right now, if you use the promo code TRUTH, you'll save 20% on your next purchase with free ground shipping. So head over to wickedtreegear.com and get a saw that's tough enough to work as hard as you hunt.
I mean, I think there's a couple moments, and then there's a couple thoughts. Like, one of the moments was, again, while the sun is rising, the fog is lifting. That kind of moment where, you know, everything just kind of becomes clear and everything's in focus was super cool.
Right.
Because you don't see that very often.
Right.
So that moment was really neat. Another thought I had was, it was kind of at the end of the hunt, you know, we were going till about noon, and I just thought to myself, like, holy shit, you haven't looked at a screen, whether it be a computer or your phone or a television in like 7 or 8 hours. And that's a full work day, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I stared at a computer screen all day.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember the last time I went that long without, you know, other than sleeping,
Right.
where there was no technology.
Right.
And you're literally just in the woods. And I was like, that's cool. That's special.
Yeah.
And even now, like today, in like, you know, like today's world, you know how, like, I mean, I'm the same. Like, I'm like, you become kind of addicted to this technology. So it was a really nice escape, and I really like appreciated that. And and that was something that I took away. I was like, I would like to if it's not hunting, it should definitely be like, I need to like turn it off, enjoy nature, just get out and just like don't fucking worry about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that was awesome. That was one of the biggest takeaways. You know, unfortunately we didn't hear or you know, well, we did hear, but we didn't see a bird. But I didn't care.
Right.
You know, it was still just like the whole act of it. It was just, it was a surreal experience just because I'd never done it before. And it was completely new and it was awesome.
Yeah. So it's cool that you mentioned the screen thing, because that to me is one of the reasons why I was really excited to take you hunting. Right. So selfishly, right. Cause there's part of this that, you know, I was introducing a new hunter, you know, to the outdoors in a different way, sharing some experiences that I hold really valuable and that are really meaningful to me, and wanting to share them with someone who's a friend of mine and stuff like that, which was, you know, really cool. But the other part of it too is that I knew, just in knowing you, that those deeper, more meaningful experiences would be the thing that would kind of draw you in. That it wasn't so much like the pulling of the trigger or the harvesting of an animal or whatever. Although I would have loved to had that happen, and hopefully we'll make that happen at some point. But I knew that just your personality and how you appreciate things, that if you would just experience some of those like small moments, right? As small as they might be in the grand scheme of things, man, they are giant.
Yeah.
They're huge. You know what I mean? And I knew that if you would experience that you would take away the right things and the right message.
Yeah.
You know, because we talked about that as we were leaving the woods, like the whole like not looking at a screen, and that's one of my favorite parts of it. You know, truthfully, but I also start to take those things for granted because I go so often.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't go often enough. You know what I mean? I'd love to hunt more than I do, but you know, I hunt more than a lot of folks do, and I'm happy that I get to do that with the amount of vacation time I have and stuff like that. So, and I'm not gonna bitch about that. But you know, at some point we start to take for granted listening to all the sounds that you were listening to, taking in for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, watching the fog burn off in the morning. You know what I mean? Like that is one of my absolute favorite things about a hunt. Like, you know, hopefully some point I'll get you in a tree stand with me, you know what I mean? And we'll, you know, do a deer hunt together, whether you're hunting or just kind of coming to film or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing like watching the forest wake up from like 20 to 25 feet in the air and just watching the fog lift off, you know, and the sun start to peek through all those, you know, leaves that are changing colors. And, mm-hmm. you know, it's just, it's unreal. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you just sit there and think like, man, the only people who get to see this are bow hunters. You know, not saying only bow hunters, because plenty of gun hunters do too, but like in that moment I'm hunting with a bow and I'm like, man, the only people that are seeing this right now probably are bow hunters. Mm-hmm. And anyone who's not a hunter and isn't out in the timber at this time of day or this time of the morning watching this, man, like they are missing out. And there are people that will go their entire life and never see that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's other than like in a movie or in a magazine or a picture of it somewhere or whatever, but like to watch it happen for real, it's like, that's incredible and it's powerful. You know?
Yeah, and it was just some little corner of the woods, you know?
It wasn't anything, you know, unique or extravagant about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, there's lots of it out there for anyone to go, you know, take part in, which is the cool part. So now that we kind of talk about your most favorite parts, I think those are like two super cool, you know, parts that you took away as your, you know, most favorite moment. So what would be your least favorite part? Because I always have a least favorite part of the hunt. I enjoy the entire aspect of it, but there's always like a moment where I'm like, yeah, I could have did without that. You know what I mean?
I mean, it was a physical aspect.
Right.
It was hard to sit still
right
for so long.
Right.
I mean, especially like, you know, those mats did nothing.
Yeah.
Except keep our
dude, once we got those turkey chairs from Wilson, oof. Once we got those, game changer, dude. I fell asleep, was like catching flies on that last sit.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was fighting it for a second there, and that's a funny. That was another funny thought I had. It was like, you know, like you're so comfortable and it's so peaceful, and it's so nice out there.
The weather, I mean, we couldn't have had better weather as far as like the temperature and
It was
stuff
amazing.
like that.
It was so comfortable. And like you're just kind of like getting so relaxed in those chairs, and all of a sudden I just find myself like kind of dozing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? And like, you know, you doze, and then you like wake up, and you're like, oh, and you're like, what am I doing here? What's going? I'm holding a gun. You know, that split second of confusion. You're
Right.
like, oh, right.
Oh, right.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Speaking of like the peaceful aspect of it, like when's the last time that you just like nonchalantly dozed off with that much like peace?
Dude, I got 2 young kids.
Right. Never. Shit doesn't happen,
That
does it?
does not happen. No.
No.
Ever. Like, I cannot remember. I cannot remember the last time that happened.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. I mean, to me, that just kind of points to the fact that like your brain, like we need that. Like that's something that the body craves, is that like ability to just reconnect with a simpler, like more primal existence, to where it's like you really had like 2 initiatives or 2 goals. One was to try to harvest the animal. The other one, and this is being a little bit dramatic, but survive. You know what I mean? Like if you're breaking it down into caveman talk here, it's like you want to get food and you want to live. Like those are the 2 things, right? And I feel like when we hit the woods, it's like for me, it's like when I hit the timber. Like it happened to me the other day. I was out pulling camera cards at my dad's property, and I was by myself. It was pissing rain all over me. I had rain gear on, so I was relatively dry except for my feet. Damn it! And I'm just kind of walking through the timber, and like as I'm walking through grabbing these camera cards, it's just like all of a sudden I just felt like this complete like relax. Like there was no like anxiety, there was no judgment, there was no wondering if I'm doing something right or wrong. You know what I mean? Like there was none of that. It just, I felt like I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it was like, even though I wasn't hunting necessarily, it was just like having fresh air and listening to the rain hit the ground and being wet. And even though I was wet and like you sometimes are miserable, it's like I've learned to now kind of embrace like the uncomfortable moments like in the outdoors. Because you're never going to have perfect weather, right? You're always going to have a sore ass.
Yeah.
You're always going to have to sit kind of still. You're always going to, sometimes be cold. You're going to be wet. It's going to be damp. You know what I mean? It's like all those things are always going to be present in one way, shape, or form. It might be hot as shit and you might be sweating. You know what I mean? It's like, and you just kind of have to like, if you just stop thinking about your comfort in terms of context of the world that we live in day to day, like that's not real life. Like in my opinion, like that's not real world. Like that's fake world. That's fake world that we live in because we've created all these things and constructs that we have to live within, and we have to make certain amounts of money to live, to pay for certain amenities and all these things, right? To me, it's like all those things that you're experiencing in nature, like those are the real things. Those are the things that the way it was meant to be. And once I kind of started thinking of it in that way, all of a sudden it's like I have like those things bother me way less because I understand like this is how I'm supposed to feel. Mm-hmm. Like the other way, sitting in an air-conditioned house, even though it's nice, right? That's not how my body was made, like to have that, right? It was made to exist without it, right? And so I start to think about those things when I get into the timber, and man, it's just like this wash comes over me, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like I don't want to leave. You know what I mean? It's like I always get a little sad, when I have to leave, and I get the fuckets. A little bit, you know what I mean, where I'm just like, damn it, why do I gotta have like a normal life? Like, you know what I mean? Why can't I just be in the woods? Yeah. But and look, I'm not complaining about my situation at all. Like, I like my my family and my home and all those things, but I guess I'm just talking more to like the point that there's something like deeper in people if they just let themselves experience it, right? That better connects them to the world around them if they just give themselves 15 minutes to be uncomfortable and be okay with it.
Yeah.
I got deep and weird.
No, that's the truth, man.
Yeah.
Except when you really got to piss.
So yeah, when that happens, it's like, then I'm like, all right, I need like something's gonna happen here. So, couple beers in, kept you here for a little while. I want to ask you, this is the big question. After all the stuff, that you've kind of experienced and the hunt and leading up to, actually two questions, two things. So how did you feel? Did you feel any sense of, camaraderie or like part of a group or anything like that during this whole process? Like, did you feel like, because hunting is a big, in a lot of cases, especially in Pennsylvania, the way I grew up, like hunting, we always kind of hunted in groups to a degree. And there was always like a hunting camp or something like that. And so there was always this like, and fraternity is not the right word necessarily, because I was always the younger. It was like my dad and maybe my grandpap and my uncles and stuff like that. But it was like you're hanging out with the guys, and it didn't matter how like you had some differences about like how you maybe lived or whatever, but there was this common bond that you had as hunters that kind of, was an overriding factor for everything. Yeah. Right. So I was just curious if you had a sense of like, even in that like brief moment of like, us shooting guns together with me, you and Wilson and going on the hunt and stuff like that, did you start to get a sense of like, a brotherhood of like how hunting kind of works that way, or was that kind of absent?
No, definitely not, because it was you, Wilson, and Wilson's buddy, and I was the only one with a gun. Yeah. So it was definitely, there was definitely a moment where I was like, wow, like these guys, like this is for me almost, and I felt like a really like, like you, but you've taken me under your wing this whole time and kind of been, preaching the gospel. Right.
So what else do I do?
And in a sense, I've drank the Kool-Aid. Right. But I definitely had that moment early on, and I was like, holy shit, like this is like I'm the one who could really kill anything right now. You know, like, and like that was a moment where I was like, these guys, they don't want me to, they don't care if I kill something or not. They're backing me up. Yep. They're helping to call in the turkey. Yep. They're the ones helping me to have this experience. Yep. And I think, like I said in the first one, it's all about this new experience, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you guys. Yeah. So it's all about that brotherhood. It's all like, there's no way I could have done that by myself, because I don't know what I'm doing, and you guys do. Yeah. So it's interesting that you kind of thought of that in the moment, because early on I was like, this is special. Yeah. Like, you guys are nice.
You guys are nice. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, hunters, look, in every group you have different types, right? Yeah. It's like you have guys that are like the guys that, that we went out with and stuff like that, which are just salt of the earth, like good people that would
such good people
that would do anything for you. You know what I mean? And then, just like anything else, you have the opposite side of that there's a few bad apples, but by and large, the hunting community is kind of like that, because, the two takeaways is, one, that yes, everyone was there for you to have that experience, that was 100% true. The other part is it wasn't there to help you necessarily, whether no one cared whether or not you killed a turkey, and part of that is like, I guess, like, in that moment, yes, it was about you having that experience, but the other takeaway really is that it's because it's not necessarily always, it's not about that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's that, walking into the timber with a gun,
I didn't get a turkey. Yeah. Like, and I appreciate all of that now. It's like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's about
those times will come when you put your time in, and it's, you hunt, long enough, or whatever species it is, or whatever, it's, eventually it comes to fruition, as long as you just kind of keep grinding away and stuff like that. But, when you can go out and not take a gun, and not have any chance of harvest, right? Because hunting, when people think of hunting, they think you're going out to harvest something. Yes, I mean, that's kind of the goal, right? But there's a lot of different approaches and a lot of different experiences with hunting, and it depends on what you're in it for. And it's weird that, like, as I'm getting older, what's becoming more and more important to me is watching other people get as excited as I do about getting into the outdoors and experiencing wildlife and being part of wildlife. You know what I mean? Not just kind of like watching it from afar, but like actually like taking part.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if you do harvest, right, you are becoming part of that circle of life that it inevitably is going to occur for everything in the timber at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only a few places where you can go where there's, real apex predators that are at the top of the food chain that really, famine, disease, old age or hard winter or whatever might take them, but there's nothing there that's going to eat them. You know what I mean? Like a grizzly bear, for example. Mm-hmm. It's like they're the king. Unless a human takes them, it's going to be something of natural causes that takes them. It's likely not going to be a predator. Maybe it's a bear fight. Maybe that might happen, but so it's not necessarily about the kill. It's about everything else about that. Yeah, it's everything else surrounding that really is the important piece. So that's cool, man, that dawned on you. Have you talked to anyone about that necessarily, or is that something you kind of keep near and dear to a degree?
No, because I didn't share it with you guys.
Right. Yeah.
That's just kind of something that I picked up.
Right. So the $1 million question is, do you think this is something you would like to continue to do? Like, is this like the first hunt of hunts to come for you, do you think? Or do you think this is a one-time deal, or are there some other like species, some other types of hunts you want to try, or what's the next steps for Steuben? Steuben Reynolds.
All right, just to let you know that's from a text message about a few days ago.
Yeah. But that's going to be like my undercover name now for everything. It's like just Steuben Reynolds. It's going to become a thing. It's a great name. It makes me think of Burt Reynolds, actually.
Came up with that on the fly.
That was good. You're creative, I can tell.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So hunting, is this a one-time deal, or there's some other types of hunts you want to try? And is turkey hunting something you want to try again? Or what's Steuben up to after this, and for as far as hunting goes?
No, this is definitely not it.
Cool.
It was I had an amazing time.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was, from start to finish, from piss to
right.
It was I just every moment, like, I really just tried to take in, and I really just appreciated what you guys did for me, and it was I had a blast just from start to finish. What I'd love to explore, goose.
Yeah, we'll do that this winter for sure.
I'd love to do turkey again, and I'd even like to try deer. So,
yeah, deer hunting something like I definitely want to, like, we're definitely going goose hunting this winter. That's like book that. That's definitely happening. Goose and duck. I'd love to get you out the deer hunt too. It's one of those things where I think you would really enjoy bow hunting, because I think you would actually enjoy the act of shooting a bow, because it's very, I find it very therapeutic. But to start out, it would be great. I got, that first Monday of buck season that comes in here in Pennsylvania. It's like, it could definitely take you to the family farm, and, and kind of have an easier introduction to it to a degree, because there's a couple good spots for rifle season where you're pretty much guaranteed to see deer every year. So we could definitely think about taking you to do something like that. And that's one of those things where there's a bunch of old timers that hang out at camp, and they play cards, and they get away from their wives for a weekend, and they cut loose. And it's like, you're like, hey, why don't you act like that, like all the time around my mother-in-law? Oh, that's because she would disown you. But no, it's a good bunch. It's a good bunch of guys, some old timers. They're fun to hang out with. So we'll see about trying to make that happen too, man. Because I think the other part that you'll really enjoy once you have your first harvest is there's nothing like providing that, the cleanest protein possible for your family, and knowing that whenever you're making it, that like you provided that, and that where it came from.
Yeah,
it's not full of hormones,
like
and it's like
the story.
Oh man, yeah, you're reliving it, and you're giving thanks to that animal every time you cook it. You know what I mean? That's the part. It's like there's not a time that, I'm sitting here looking at this deer skull that I had the Beatles work on, of the buck that I killed this year. And every time we cook, venison burgers or whatever the case might be with it, I relive that moment with that deer, and then I give thanks for him for, making the ultimate sacrifice for me to have, provide that nourishment for my family, so it's something we don't take lightly. And I'm super stoked for the moment that you get to experience that. That's going to be rad.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming over to do this, having a couple beverages, talking the hunting, and I'm looking forward to getting you back out, man.
Big time.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. We'd like to thank Trevor for joining. I have to say I'm super proud of my buddy for having an open mind and being open to new ideas and trying hunting for the first time. It's I think it's this type of approach and the communication that kind of comes along with that type of approach that will help us preserve or continue to preserve hunting and make better inroads with the larger non-hunting public. We'd of course like to thank all of you for tuning in and listening, and if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And before we shut this thing down, we need to give a big shout out to our partners that continue to help us make this podcast possible: Wicked Tree Gear, Exodus Outdoor Gear, Trophy Ridge, Ozonics, Obsession Bows, Tecumani Seed, Glacier Coolers, Ramcat Broadheads, and Trophy Taker Rests. And until next time, we'll see y'all.
A long time coming, if it all. It takes a special knowing to colorful. Damaged heads, broken letters. Nationalize yourself in numbers, but